All right, Mel.
Okay,
When were you born? How old are you?
I'm 101. I was born November 6, 1919.
And like you, I'm a Pennsylvania native. You're from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, yes.
And did you live there for how long?
I lived there for 70 years. 70 years.
Wow. And what did you do for a living?
I worked for the Navy Department.
But prior to that,
I designed forms for the Navy. You know, the forms that,
Like field guides.
no, like forms like you fill out for your papers, or if you request what can I say, what type of form? Any type of form that you fill out.
Mm-hmm.
If you want-
expenses, leave of that.
How can I explain that? Any form you fill out, like if you want a job,
Right.
that type of form I filled out for the Navy. And after that, I wrote contracts.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, contracts for technical facility for the Naval Air.
Yeah.
So the type of contracts for like pilot check-off list or maintenance, that type of contract,
Wow.
or technical contract.
So did you had like an office job? Or
Yeah,
okay.
always office job.
Okay. You liked it? You liked your time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah,
That's good.
nice people, you know.
Yeah.
It was a nice job. Yeah. I had to like it. I worked there for 44
Right, yeah.
years.
Yeah. So when did you retire? What year?
1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
Most people don't even hold jobs that long now.
No.
That's impressive.
Well, now people want variety,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to learn new things. And I don't think they take the interest to want to be with one company forever.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's good because you learn different things.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you stay in one place, you become stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I feel, anyhow.
Right. In the last 100 years, you lived through probably the most advancing stage in human history. So when you were born, there were no televisions, obviously, but now everyone has a smartphone. So, you know, within the last 100 years, this is kind of like a two-part question. What's the best invention of the last 100 years?
Well, it all depends how you look at it. If you want entertainment, I'd say it was television.
Okay. Do you remember seeing the first TV?
Mm-hmm.
And how long? When was that?
When was that? God. When did the TVs come out?
I thought the 50s.
50s, you think?
Yeah. Do you remember where you saw it?
I'm trying to think. I know at the beginning, Sid Caesar and Imogene Coca were the big deals then.
Okay.
So I don't know what year that was.
I wouldn't know either.
No.
Where did you see the first television? Is that a memory you have of seeing it?
Yeah, I saw it at my girlfriend's.
Oh,
They
wow.
were sort of wealthy,
Okay.
and they had the first TV. We didn't get one for a while after that, because we still had the radio, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember when we got our telephone, because before we got telephones, we had a drugstore at our corner, and there was a fella there that was like today's delivery man,
Right.
and we would give that number if we needed, you know, some important call.
Right.
And if we would get a call, he would come, they would hold the line, and he would come call us to
Wow.
the phone, and we'd give him 5 cents tip.
Wow.
Yeah, I could remember that.
So when you got a telephone, that was a big deal then,
Yeah,
having one in your home.
yeah.
So what would be the worst invention? What's something that disgusts you that you thought we could have done without? Or you're just, I don't know, you're repulsed by, or
What is he doing this
The
for?
worst.
Hmm?
I don't know what the worst. I don't know.
a lot of people say in interviews, they say like the credit card was not a good invention, but I don't
Oh,
know.
I think that was an excellent invention.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Anything,
How could you live without it?
well, a lot of people say that. So you don't know if there was a real worst invention. What was your first car?
57 Chevy.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you like that car?
I loved it.
Was it a stick?
She was older when she...
No, I think it was one of the first automatics.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a black and white sport car. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was did you know how to drive before your first car?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you learn to drive on?
I think it was also a Chevy. A friend of mine, I didn't go to a driver's school. A friend of mine taught me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'll always be grateful to him because he taught me that parking,
Mm-hmm.
parallel parking, and I never had a problem parking after that.
Yeah.
And you know how so many people have trouble parking?
Yeah.
That was, yeah, that was good.
So you drove, you don't drive anymore. When did you give up your license, or did you let it expire?
At least 5 years, maybe more.
More.
More, you think, Roberta?
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
about 8 years ago.
Do you miss driving or no?
I miss the independency
Yeah.
you have when you drive.
Yeah.
I miss that a lot.
I bet. I can't imagine.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's you feel obligated, and then it's terrible. But what are you going to do?
Right.
You don't want to kill yourself and somebody else, right?
Right. That's true. You told me a story that you got to see one of our presidents,
FDR.
FDR. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how's that story
I was
go?
in New York at the time, visiting a friend, and we were crossing a street, and the light was with us,
Mm-hmm.
and the cars had to stop. And here I look at this car, and I recognized him immediately. And he looked at me, and I said, President Roosevelt. And he smiled. He said, hi, how are you? And shook my head.
Wow.
Oh, my God, I was so excited. Yeah.
Now, he had 4 terms. What term was that?
That was, I would say it was probably the second term.
So pretty early.
Yeah, I'd say the second term.
Wow. So you lived through World War II, and now, unfortunately, there isn't many veterans left of that war, let alone people who remember the country before it. So what was your thoughts when the country started talking about going to war and Pearl Harbor happened? And were you scared?
It was, I think it was a shocker
Mm-hmm.
to most people. And, yeah, you weren't really prepared because WW1, I was just born, so I didn't know anything much about that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when that WW2, that was a shocker. And then I went to work for the Navy, and that was right, at the beginning, that was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad.
So when did you start with the Navy? What year?
I think I started in 42.
So that's right in the mix there.
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor was the
42.
year before.
And I started with aviation supply and then went over to Naval Air Technical Services.
What was the country's mood at the time of the war? Were people
I think fright. I think people were scared.
scared of
what was going on, and especially when the boys had to go overseas and all that people were scared, I think.
Yeah.
How about you being Jewish? Did that make you more afraid?
No,
When did you first start hearing about the Holocaust? Was that, I always wondered, was that like public knowledge at the time? Or when did the world start figuring out when that was going on?
At the beginning of the war and all that, even though, it was Hitler and all that, but I don't think it was hit people until after the war when they discovered, like, the bodies and all that is when it really hit. But just like reading concentration camp, oh, it's a shame, everybody was sorry. But I don't think it hit as bad as until they found really the bodies and what happened to the neighborhoods and towns that were washed out, and it was really bad.
Yeah.
Because I know I was over in Germany in 1964, and they still were not completely, fixed up. Like
Right.
the streets, there were still things, glasses that were not, glass windows that were not replaced and all that. After all those years,
Excuse me.
and it was still, some of the towns were just shattered. It was bad. It was bad.
How about that person that came to live with you?
Yeah, we had I guess it was about 1940, in the early 40s, a friend of my mother's was a social worker.
Okay.
And she called my mother and she said, there's a woman and her daughter that are coming over here from Germany. And the mother is going to, I think she was going to somewhere in Jersey, but the daughter had no place to go. Would we take her in, and the charitable place, whatever, Jewish charities, they would pay her, board, her room and board. And she said to my mother, would you do me a favor? I know you're a kind woman. Maybe you could find a place because it's so hard to put, somebody up now and then blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, my mother said, yeah, we'll take her. So this Helga came to live with us for a while until she could go back with her mother. And she would tell us stories that were unbelievable. She said she went to the movies with some girlfriends, and they happened to be Gentile girls. She was the only Jewish girl with them. And she said on the screen, it said, all Jews will go to the back of the theater and meet the guard.
Wow.
And the girl said to her, don't you move, you're with us.
Wow.
And she said she didn't get up, she was scared to death, but she did not move, and they all walked out together and they didn't bother, her.
That's very brave.
So she said her mother worked for somebody that got them the tickets to get out of Germany, and the mother had high-heeled shoes, and she had one of the heels dug out and had diamonds put in there so that when they come over here, they could trade them in and have some money. So they really had a hard time.
It's amazing that you lived through that time and were able to give
Right?
refuge to someone who was actually
Right.
suffering from that.
And you want to hear, and she was a brilliant girl. She went to school, took a trolley to go to school, and one day came off the trolley, and before she had a chance to step off, the trolley took off, and she fell, and they ripped her arm off.
Ooh.
Here in the States.
Ooh.
So, in fact, we went to see her in the hospital. It was terrible.
That is terrible.
But the German people, she had long plaits, and she would plait her hair with the one arm and with her teeth, plait her hair. So, that's how she came out of it.
Wow.
It was something. Helga.
So once the war ended, what was the mood of the country then? One hit.
Oh, everybody was, hilarious and
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you fear like something like that would happen again?
You hope not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hope not.
Yeah.
But you didn't have a crazy person like this one
Right.
running the country either.
Right. So of all the presidents you remember, who's the first president you voted for? Let me ask that.
FDR.
FDR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you voted, how many, have you never not voted?
No, I always voted
So,
Democrat.
yeah. Were you always a Democrat?
Always, yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Well, my mother and father, both hot Democrats.
Right.
Yeah. So you usually, until you're on your own, you take your first vote would probably be the same as your parents until
Right.
you decide yourself what you want.
Right. And you were telling me, and I didn't know this, your parents were immigrants to the country?
Yeah.
And where were they from?
My mother was from Russia. My father was Austria.
Okay. And you told me your mother was wealthy in Russia?
They had it was like a spa and a farm.
Mm-hmm.
They had that mineral water, and the hot springs.
Right.
And her mother would give treatments to these people that were wealthy people that were sick or had arthritis. And her father did tailoring work for the big shots of that town until that town was taken over by the Russian whatever, they had the pogroms there.
Mm-hmm.
So they sold the whole thing for $200, my mother said.
Wow.
The whole shebang, the big home and all that, $200 they got, and they came to America.
Wow. And did they, were they proud Americans, or what were their opinions on the politics of the time?
Well, her father came over. She said he did pretty well. I don't know what he did. Her mother died. She was 50.
Mm.
She had heart problems. And her father was beat up by hoodlums in Kensington, where he lived with his daughter, my
Wow.
mother's sister. And these hoodlums beat him up because he had a beard, old Jewish man.
Oh, geez.
And he died.
Really?
That's how he died, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So not much has changed with Kensington. That's still a pretty bad neighborhood
Yeah.
to this day.
Well, that neighborhood, yeah, that was bad then.
Still is today. They actually
Right.
call it the heroin capital of the world now, as far as the drug abuse and the homelessness.
And yet some of the homes there are selling like for thousands. How many, one house in Kensington, what street was that on? Let me see. Can
They
you,
were on Susquehanna and Kensington Avenue.
and it sold for, what did she say?
Two.
$250,000?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can you believe that?
No, I can't. Not based
from the
on
slums.
the pictures I see of it today.
No, it was slums.
Yeah.
So figure that out.
What was moving forward into the 1950s and 60s? What was the Red Scare like? Was that the history books kind of remember that as being, taken very seriously? Was the hunt for communists? Was it all what the history books make it out to be?
I'll tell you, well, I don't know about then, but when I got my job, now this is during the war, so I won't say the 50s, but when I got my job, I got a call to go down to the office, that there's some men that want to talk to me. So, men want to talk to me, why? She said, I couldn't tell you why, but that you have to go. So I went down, and here are these, I think there were 4 of them, sitting there, with paper and pencil, real strict. And I looked at them, I said, what's this all about? And I got scared to death. I thought, what the hell? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Number 8.
And he asked me my name and where I live, my mother's name, my father's name. And then he asked me a lot of questions, and then they started a laugh.
Mm.
And he said, we're just checking up. And he said, I didn't want to frighten you. He said, but there was a Mildred Unger who sent this letter to Russia, congratulating them on their anniversary and saying what a great job they did. And she was an American citizen. And he said, we have to check up on that. And it's happened you had the same name. And he said, it's not that a common name. We had to check it before you started to work for the government.
Right.
So
Well, that's
it started then.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that was like in the 40s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's I can't imagine something like that today. Move into the 1960s. What was your feelings on Vietnam and our involvement over there?
Never thrilled with that.
No.
I mean, a lot of times,
Is there any particular memories you have of that time period that sit with you?
see, the 60s for me were good because I had worked for a while. I had joined the social club at work. We had a terrific social club for the Navy. And I went on all these trips.
Right.
And they were so reasonable that I could go all over. That's how I went to Europe so many times and here and there because of that.
Right.
And that started the 60s and 70s and 80s, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I remember. As far as we were always involved with, equipment and stuff and,
Right.
and supplies and Navy equipment for the planes.
Yeah.
We equipped all planes with parts and all that stuff.
No.
So we were always, involved with that.
Yeah.
So, of course, during wars, more so. But even in peacetime, they always were. In fact, I had a couple of tours, went to a helicopter factory and another factory that we went to see where they keep the planes and the parts and all that stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a good job.
But Mildred, how about the prejudices between the Southerners and the Jews?
The what?
The Southerners and the Jews. You experienced that.
Yeah.
Prejudice.
American Southerners.
Tennessee. When I first got the job doing the forms, well, of course they send you to school because you have to learn how to
Right.
give a certain amount of digits so the printer, when your form goes to the printer, they could pick it up. So because some are large print, some are real small print, in forms how they are,
Yeah.
some in italics and all that. So they sent me to Washington to this class on forms for a week. So there are people, from all over the country there. And I became very friendly with this one girl. And
Arkansas.
she was from Tennessee.
Arkansas.
Where was that senator from?
Arkansas.
Yeah, what-
Fulbright.
What was his name? I can't remember.
William Fulbright.
That's where she was from. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But they were having a party, the senators, and she was invited and she could bring a friend, so she was bringing me. So we left the class, we were going to the party, we had to take a cab. And it was very busy afternoon. So we're waiting for a cab. Finally, this cab drives up. And I open the door, go to get in. She pulls me back She said, "You're not getting in there." I said, "Are you crazy? We finally have a cab. Let's get in there." She said, "We're not getting in there." So I just backed up. I thought maybe, something happened to her. And he pulled away. She said, "I don't get in a cab with niggers." Oh, I thought, dear God, who am I with?
Right.
I mean, she would not get in that cab. So we're talking, and finally something comes up, and she's telling me the same thing with Jews. I thought, how could she be in this day and age, work for the government? I couldn't believe it.
Right.
So when we were leaving the class and the teacher asked me what I thought, I said, "Well, you have a lot of people who are prejudiced in here." She said, "Yes, I know."
Mm-hmm.
So the teacher was very well aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine though, in this day and age, well, I shouldn't say this day and age, I'd say that was maybe in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
Late 50 years.
50 or 60.
So you obviously didn't correspond with her much more after that, or?
Oh, I didn't even look at her.
Wow. Yeah.
No. But she was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she didn't know, I guess I was Jewish, but I didn't even know she felt that way. How do you know that until you hear something like that?
Yeah.
But not to get in a cab. I wouldn't get in a cab with a nigger driver.
Yeah, and growing up in Philly, you never experienced anything like that? People,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you experience a lot of that.
right.
I did anyhow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you take it with a grain of salt.
Well, so here's some generational questions. What was your favorite era in music from the time growing up till now?
Yeah, well, what year was it with that I loved with Betty Goodman and that
Oh, you were in the 40s.
That'd be the 30s and 40s, yeah.
40s? Yeah. Glenn Miller, Betty Goodman, that crowd. I love that music. That
Right.
was my favorite.
What'd you think of rock and roll when it came around?
It's all right.
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but it's all right.
So what do you think of hip hop and pop and rap now?
I could live without it.
Yeah.
I could live without. And some of the rap is good.
Yeah?
Some of it is good. Some of the words make a lot of sense.
In what way?
Well, they tell you it's a message.
Yeah.
Some of them are good, really.
Like who? Who do you like?
I could think of the name. There's one guy that's really good, but he has one of these crazy names. Not a normal.
You like Common.
Who?
Common.
Common the rapper.
Oh, yeah.
Rapper Common.
Yeah,
You always say he's good.
yeah.
That's the only one I ever heard her say.
There's another one that has like 3 names, but they're all crazy names. He's very good too, but I
Yeah.
can't tell you. I can't tell you his name. But some of them, the lyrics make a lot of sense. It's
Yeah.
like a message, you know?
Mhm.
Some of them are crazy though.
Yeah. Well,
They don't make any sense.
yeah. Yeah. So do you like any other artists today? I know you like Adele.
Oh, I love Adele.
Yeah.
But I like a lot of the, like Beyonce and what's that guy I like that I love?
Beyonce's,
What's his name?
Beyonce's
The
husband?
Canadian, no. He sounds like Frank Sinatra.
Oh no. The one who was on TV, Roberta, last week. I said I love him. What the heck is
The one
it?
that sang with Barbara Streisand. too.
Yeah, what- Can you think of?
Michael Bublé.
Yeah,
No.
Michael Bublé.
I like him, but that's not who I meant.
Okay,
Not Terry. Oh, what the heck was his name?
you like Garth Brooks.
He's country.
Oh, I can't think of this guy's name. He's good. He's popular, but he's very good. Very good. But I can't think of his name.
That's okay.
He
John
was,
Legend.
huh?
John Legend.
John Legend.
That's yeah.
John Legend.
I like him too.
I like him.
He's a great voice.
Yep. He was on last week with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sound like you're up on modern day artists. What do you watch on TV now? What's your favorite thing to do in your pastime?
We watch Netflix usually
Yeah.
for movies or shows. And we watch a lot of news, lot of news. MSNBC,
Right.
CNN. They're the two we watch the most.
60 Minutes is your favorite.
And 60 Minutes, I do not miss ever.
When did you start watching 60 Minutes?
Oh, years ago.
When it first came out?
Yeah. When it started. And I
Yeah.
always watch it. I always watch that.
What's happened in the last 5 to 10 years that really made you think of something that happened a long time ago that you didn't think you'd see again, or something that resonated with you that just recently occurred? Any major events? Like the pandemic, I don't know. That would... Did you ever think you'd live to see the Capitol insurrection that just happened?
Never,
Never.
never.
So what were your thoughts that day?
Horrible because we were there many times.
As was I.
I was there, years and years and years ago when they first started tours. Roberta and I have been there many times. Well, we were there with you. So, I mean, I thought that was the most horrible, horrible thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But everybody thought that. I still can't believe that happened. You know? How did they let that happen?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd live through a pandemic like this?
No, this is the worst one.
Right.
Worse.
Right.
Because before I was born, like shortly before I was born, they had that bad one.
The
The
Spanish
bad
flu.
flu. That was bad because my parents always talked about that one.
What'd your parents say? What do you remember? Any things that they said about it?
They said it was horrible. Horrible, a lot of deaths and stuff, but nothing like now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think they said it was the worst, didn't they? They said this was the worst.
I think the Spanish flu, the death toll is much higher than this. But as far as
I think we're catching up, though.
yeah, I mean,
A lot of deaths.
yeah.
A lot of deaths.
Where were you when John F. Kennedy was killed?
I was working.
What were your thoughts?
Well, we all got together and were listening to the radio. They had a radio right there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a television, it was a radio, a loudspeaker, and they had the whole thing. And the whole office, everybody just got together and was watching. We could not believe it.
Yeah.
We could not believe it. And then when I got home, then you saw everything on television.
Yeah.
That was horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Yeah.
So,
What did you? I know one of the routine questions for asking someone who lives pretty long is, have you ever smoked?
yeah,
You did smoke. How long?
yeah, a long time. I started when I was very young,
How young?
and maybe 15.
Wow.
And I smoked. Well, I was working, and I got the flu or virus or something. And Roberta picked me up. So that's how long it's been that I was smoking. She picked me up to go to work. And I said to her, on the way, stop, I want to get a carton of cigarettes. I had just gotten over this flu. And she said to me, you mean to tell me after being so sick you're going to start to smoke again? And I looked at her and I said, no, I'm not.
And that was that.
And that was that. But I smoked many years.
Right.
Many years.
So 30, 40 years or more?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy, yeah.
How much did you smoke a day?
I would say, I don't think I,
carton lasted you 2 weeks.
yeah,
So that's
We go every payday, every 2 weeks,
yeah.
and get a new cook.
So how many is in a carton? 10 packs?
yeah, it's 200 cigarettes in a carton, 20 in a pack. So did you smoke a pack a day or less?
Just made it.
Less, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people smoke more than that a day. Were you ever a big drinker?
No, I was mostly a social drinker.
Okay.
I didn't drink, like every night or things
Right.
like that.
Right.
Just like at parties and weekends and, when we got together, crowds and all.
Yeah.
But I was never a big drinker.
Right. Did you ever do any drugs?
No.
No. I had another question for you regarding health. I was trying to think. Did you exercise much?
In spurts.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
When I had to do it, I did it.
Okay.
Like now I have to do it, so I do it because of physical.
Yeah. Your physical therapy. What was what's one of your oldest memories that you have personally?
About what? What do you
Just a
mean?
memory from your childhood. What's the clearest thing you remember that might be your oldest memory? And what was it of, or?
Oh, yeah, oldest memory as a child. How young a child? A little child? A big child?
Either or. Do you remember any, like the telephone story? Is there anything like that from that time period that would be worth noting? Is there anything that in the 20s growing up that
Well,
you
the
remember?
only telephone story is the one that we had to go to the drugstore to answer the phone,
Right.
Other than that.
How about stealing cigarettes from your grandmother?
No, she stole them for me. When I'd visit my grandmother, yeah. When I was young and I wasn't working, I was going to high school. So when her sons, she had 3 sons living right near her, when they'd come visit her
Yeah.
in her apartment, you know how men would take a cigarette out and leave the pack? She would take a cigarette out and save it. So when I came, she could give me a cigarette. Yeah,
That's funny.
she was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her.
What year did you graduate high school?
1936, I think. I graduated. I graduated at 16, and I couldn't get a job at 16. So I went.
1935.
So I went to Philadelphia Business School for a year
Yeah.
to take up commercial course because when I graduated high school, most of my high school I took the academic. I didn't take commercial because I thought maybe I'd go to college, and I was very good at math. And the math teacher told me to keep it up and maybe I'd get a scholarship. But then when I started to go with the girls and the boys, I thought, who wants to bother with that? I'd rather take commercial and maybe get a job. So I changed my course. And then my parents had to go to school because I wasn't of age. They had to go sign for me. And the math teacher told my parents that I should have stayed with the academic. It was a whole to-do, but I did change my course, and then I didn't have enough experience to get a job because, like, for typing or shorthand or that stuff, so I had to go to business school.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't
but I screwed myself up. I should have stayed with the academic.
I was going to ask, did you regret doing that?
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah.
And I blame my parents. They should have insisted.
Right. Did they go to school at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My father was a very, now, I don't know how far in school he went. Maybe 8th grade or something like that.
Wow.
But my father was a very intelligent man. When he died and we returned the books to the library, they said he was his best customer.
Oh, really?
So he read all these books on everything. My father was very smart.
Yeah.
My mother was pretty smart too, don't you think, Roberta?
Yeah, she's pretty sharp
Yeah.
Yeah, they were both sharp.
for
Yeah.
her age.
Very sharp.
The time period, yeah, for what she went through.
So some personal questions about living to 100. Were you never had children?
No,
Were you ever married?
no.
Were you ever engaged?
Formally, no.
Formally, no.
I went with a couple fellas
Yeah.
for a long time, but it was not formal.
Right.
It would have been a divorce in a month.
Roberta always says, good thing, because you'd have been divorced. Now, the last fellow I went to was a musician for Philadelphia Orchestra, a violinist. We went together pretty long, but that would have never worked. You're right, Roberta.
No, he fiddled around.
But you know, no, he didn't fiddle around. He got married and he died.
Oh,
He died on his honeymoon or something.
Oh.
So I was lucky. I'd have been a widow at that age. But anyhow, he was a nice fellow, but
No.
just didn't work out. No.
So, what's something you could recommend to someone who wants to live as long as you have? What's one thing you did that you don't think other people do?
She always says that.
I don't know. I couldn't recommend anything. I mean, I think I live a fairly normal life. I think I have a pretty good balanced diet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't exercise, but I move around.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think, Roberta?
And travel when you're young.
And do all your traveling and everything while you can do it.
Yeah.
And see as much as this country and all countries that you can.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's a wonderful experience just
Yeah.
to see how other people live. And then you really could appreciate your life more, I think.
Yeah. I remember when I was young, you told me that of all the places you went, you still like this country the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know you are, but you are a proud American, and
Because you know what, Ben? They rave about things that we take for granted. Like they raved about the, where was that? Like we have the,
What?
Niagara Falls and all that. And they were, where was that, in Berlin? Where they raved about their falls? It was like,
It was in Germany.
it was like it was like a little,
Stream.
what the hell? They're raving about falls. I mean, and everybody was running to see the falls, but nothing compared to ours. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, and the same thing with our national parks. They may have nicer churches, you know, these old churches from years ago, and they have a lot of very interesting architecture and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like scenic things, I mean, they have the Alps, but look what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they could come up to America.
And what is your most famous place, Mildred? Your favorite of all the tours?
The one we took in 1990.
Huh?
The one in 1990.
And which part of 1990? Where were you?
The national parks.
Yeah. Bryce.
Bryce and
Zion.
Zion.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've been to Bryce Canyon.
Don't you
That's something else. Everyone should see that.
yeah.
This is it.
Did you ever think you'd live to be 100?
Oh, no, never.
No.
Never, never.
No.
But I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Like, I have never had major surgery. I had
Right.
surgeries. Well,
Yeah.
I
Did you ever have any major health complications?
Well, I had a hip, but that was because I fell, right? It wasn't even, something that I had naturally.
Hemorrhoids.
Hemorrhoids, that's because hemorrhoids. Constipation,
Yeah.
yeah.
So other than that, not much. Even though you smoked for so long, you never developed anything from that, and you're very lucky.
Yeah, I
guess,
am.
What do you think's in store for the next 100 years? What would you like to see this country do, the world do in general?
Get rid of Trump,
Well, only a few more days.
yeah.
What
I wish the two Republicans and Democrats would get together and be normal and run a normal country instead of being so separate. It's terrible, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's awful.
So what's your message to them?
They should try to cooperate, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I think the people should get a decent wage.
You don't think people are paid enough?
No. Absolutely not. Well, he wants to pay us $15 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
which is better than it is now, anyhow.
Yeah. I think it's $7.25 an hour now.
Yeah,
It
it's
has been for a while.
ridiculous.
Yeah. You can't live on that.
Yeah,
You'd have to have 4 jobs.
yeah.
Well, you always kept yourself surrounded by friends and family.
Right.
You were never a loner, or you wouldn't consider yourself a loner?
No. No, I could, you know what? I could never live alone.
No?
No. If anything would happen to Roberta, I would go where there's people, even, I don't care what kind of a senior home. I could never, ever live alone.
No?
I have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Even her, who don't answer half the time, but at least I talk to her.
Any advice for people like my age in their 20s?
Well, you know what, Benny? A lot of people at your age, now I don't mean you, but I mean a lot of, are so self-centered, they're not interested in the next person.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think of your fellow man.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that so much. They're so selfish that they don't care about the next person. And they should wise up, because sometimes you need somebody.
Yeah.
You need help.
I agree.
I think so.
So anything you want to say before we wrap up this interview? It's been going about 50 minutes already.
Oh my God, that's long enough.
Yeah.
I said enough, I think.
Oh, you could always say more.
Well, no, I have nothing more to say. I hope maybe I'll live a little longer, but if I get sick, I don't want anybody to try to keep me alive forever. Just let me go. That's what I say. I always say that to Roberta.
Yeah.
I can't stand these people that try to go on and on and on and on. Enough is enough.
So you feel like your life's complete already, and then some.
Yeah, what am I going to do?
Well,
I can't do any work.
right,
And with the eyesight, that's the worst.
right.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Now, I saw the game so well.
Yeah.
I said to Roberta, how come I saw that so well? And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
I forgot to mention you. The Eagles finally won a Super Bowl a few
Yeah.
years ago.
last year?
I think it was the year before, 2019 or 18 or
2 years.
2 years is it already?
yeah.
Yeah. That was,
You were probably proud.
Well, see, we had the Super Bowl every year here.
Your party, yeah.
Big party. Well, the year they won, You know, after Super Bowl, after the game, and we would eat, and everybody would go home. Well, after the Eagles, like 1 o'clock, they were still partying. Oh my God, they were all excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big deal, especially for
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
God knows if it'll ever happen again.
Well, not after this past season.
This season was horrible,
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah. So you're the true American. You're still watching football and you're
I
still
have
keeping
no
up with
choice.
politics. Yeah,
I have no choice.
yeah,
Yeah, politics. I'm still a good Democrat.
yeah,
I don't think that will ever change.
yeah.
Not the way it looks.
A lot of Americans say they don't like getting involved with politics. What's your opinion on that?
Well, you should. If you're a true American, you get involved.
Yeah,
That's part of your life, for God's sakes.
I agree.
You have to get involved.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mildred. And this coming November will be your 102nd birthday.
Yeah.
And
You want to
we-
hear something funny, Ben?
Yes.
Where were we, Roberta? Were you with me? Yeah, one of the tests
If
I
you were
took.
anywhere, I was there.
One of the tests I took when I said 101, and she said, "My great aunt is 108."
Yeah,
Wow.
that was when you had this last GI studies and all that.
Yeah, one of the girls that was taking the test,
She
she
was
said-
doing the ultrasound.
and she said she's good.
Yeah.
Yep, and she showed us the picture, didn't
She was
she?
going around in a golf cart.
Yep,
Yeah.
108.
That's impressive.
Yep, that was
It was
funny.
her great aunt down in Mississippi.
Yeah, down to that black lady.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that was funny when she said 108. I said, "What? Oh, God forbid, 108." Oh, I couldn't take it. No,
Couldn't
Too
do the
much.
7 more years.
no, enough is enough. It's enough, enough.
What, Millie?
I said I could never take it at 108.
She said enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Well, thank you, Mildred, for this interview. I've been planning it for a while, and then with the pandemic, it got delayed, and I was finally come down and visit
Well,
you.
actually, I don't know why you wanted it. It's really a boring life, but nothing exciting
Well-
except the amount of time.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Well, Mildred, thank you very much.
Yes, you're quite welcome.
All right.
Did I ever tell you